is now in session.
Good night.
Welcome to another episode of Therapy Sessions. Thank you all for joining me. I'm excited about this episode, and today I want to talk about something that really hit me, and I think it will help a lot of people. And that is a question many people, well, not gonna say many people had this question, but you may have encountered this. I'll say it like that. You may have encountered this. You'll notice people will talk about their different experiences, right? They'll be like, "Oh, I watched this movie and this happened," but then you'll notice that you watched that movie and nothing happened. Oh, I heard this song and this happened to me, but then you'll be like, "Well, I heard that song, ain't nothing happened to me." So you'll see that situation with a lot of things with a lot of believers. Some they'll do something or experience something or be in a certain environment and have a negative response, some kind of spiritual response or manifestation of the enemy. But then that same thing will happen to you, or you'll be in similar environments and watch similar things or encounter similar things, and nothing happens, right? And oftentimes, the people that these things happen to, they start making blanket statements as if this is the cause or reason for everyone. Is this should be a rule for everyone to avoid this because something happened or they had an experience. But then you'll sit back and look at, well, that didn't happen to me, and there's millions of other people that nothing happened. So you can't exclude either experience. So I want to shed some light on why this may be the cause in some situations. And that is because seed and ground, right? Seed, ground, and watering the seed. This is why. I was talking to someone earlier and we're having a discussion about something similar to this, and we started talking about seeds, right? And it really hit me. Seeds. We talk about seeds a lot as believers, but when we think about the parable of the sower, um, when Jesus talks about the parable of the sower, where there's good ground, hard ground, thorny ground, stuff like that, right? The enemy we know perverts things. Do you realize that he can pervert the parable of the sower? And that what tends to happen, if you're not careful, you can become good ground or fertile ground for bad seed. You're fertile ground for bad seed. And for example, two people walk into a store to go shopping. The store's playing a certain song, let's say Cardi B or something like that. For person A, it may cause them to stumble or trigger certain things in them, and they'll, that doesn't happen to person B. Person B will hear that same song and be like, "Oh, well, there's just a song. I'm going about my business." Nothing happens. Person A, now they're in a hucklebuck because they heard that song. What happened? What tends to happen is when we look at a case by case situation like that, person A has been entertaining lustful thoughts, lustful conversations, lustful experiences, fornication, and stuff like that. So there's seeds from those different things. Each of those situations, those conversations became seeds of lust. Those DMs became seeds of lust. Meeting up with that certain person became seeds of lust. They've been entertaining these different things that have now become seeds of lust. Person B hasn't done any of that, so there's nothing there for that song to water. There's nothing there for that song to water. So it doesn't affect them. And what can happen with movies? You can watch the same movie and you may experience some kind of manifestation or whatever. I can watch that same movie and nothing happens. What could be a reason for that? Because you have fear. You have seeds of fear in you. It may be because trauma, you've experienced certain things or whatever, or you just have a spirit of fear. Me, I'm not worried about none of that. None of that bothers me. I don't have that trauma. I haven't had bad experiences or anything like that. So there's nothing for that movie to water. You know, certain atmospheres, me and you can go in the same atmosphere, and you could be tempted, and now you want to be in the gang, you want to be in the hood or whatever. I may be over here in that same environment, nothing happens. And I can do missionary work, I can do whatever have you, and that doesn't bother me. But you may have had cousins that grew up in this lifestyle. They've been trying to get you here for years and stuff like that. And you've been saying no, but then you finally immersed yourself in that environment, and it's watered that seed that was planted. You seen your uncles, your cousins been in your bloodline. And sometimes that seed may have been in you since birth because of your bloodline. It may have been in you because of the things that your family has been into, may have raised you up in, things they may have taught you, may have planted seeds in you, so that now when you have these experiences, it was water. It may be because neglect, a parent neglecting you or abandoning you, that may plant seeds. And then we often talk about internalizing pain. What do you have to do to seeds? You have to bury them. So when you internalize things, traumas, rejection, different things like that, emotion, different things like that, you're burying them, you're planting them. Internalizing an issue is basically planting that seed now into your soil. And now, later on in life, that seed is lie dormant. And later on in life, something happens that comes and waters that seed now. And now it grows into destruction, it grows into different things. And if we're not careful, these seeds can grow into death. The lifestyle that you live, your disobedience can make you fertile ground for bad seed. Disobedience, laziness, bad stewardship, all of these different things can make you fertile ground for bad seed. Instead, you should be bad ground for bad seed. When you're obedient to God, that makes you bad ground for bad seed. Now, all hope is not lost. If you were fertile ground before, all hope is not lost. Why? Because God can uproot the bad seed that was planted in you. He can uproot different things in you. Now, that means you got to get yourself together and be obedient. Now, be very careful, because God may also tell you to avoid certain things because there's seed in you. He sees the seed in you, and he's working on you to uproot that seed. Sometimes you got to work the seeds out. It's buried deep. He sees the seed in you, and he knows that if you listen to certain songs, he knows that if you go in certain environments, if you meet up with a certain person, that they're going to water that seed and it's going to begin to grow. It's going to take up roots and it's going to begin to grow. So he may tell you to stay away from certain things, certain songs, certain environments, whatever, what have you. This is why you may have a personal conviction about a thing, because God sees the seed inside of you and knows that these things will water that seed and it'll begin to grow. And sometimes it isn't just one exposure. Sometimes it's multiple exposures. Sometimes you may say, oh, well, ain't nothing happened this time. But on the fifth time, something may happen, because it doesn't rain constantly. It rains and then it stops. May not rain for a couple days, may not rain for a couple weeks. But then it rains again, then it stops. And it keeps, and as it rains, that seed continues to grow, then it starts to sprout. And sometimes you don't know what that plant will produce until the fruit is produced. You don't know what's growing. You don't know what's in your garden until that fruit starts to produce. So you have to be very careful, be mindful of what is planted in you, get to the root of what's planted in you, and allow God to uproot anything that's not of Him that has been planted inside of you. And make sure that you live a lifestyle that makes it hard and impossible, should I say. I want to say impossible. I like that word better. that makes it impossible for the enemy to plant seeds inside of you. Certain circumstances are beyond your control. The way that you were brought up, all the other great stuff, your upbringing, your family, these different things, stuff may happen to you. You could be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and bad stuff can happen. You may get exposed to certain things that you didn't want to. But even in that, allow God to uproot those seeds. That's why it's not good to internalize things, because sometimes pain can grow into sickness. Internalized pain can grow into sickness if you're not careful. That's the fruit of that internalized pain. That seed was watered by the different things. And burying emotions. Like, men, stop burying your emotions, your hurt, your trauma. Because then stuff keeps happening and it starts to water that. And now that grows into rage. Now it grows into a crash out. Now you in jail or you lost your life. Be very careful of that. Be mindful. It's not too late for you though. If that was you, submit yourself to God, get in alignment and obedience to Him, and He can uproot those seeds and those things that was planted in you, the things that you've buried. Be very mindful. So, this is why certain things affect one believer and they don't affect another. There may be other reasons, but this is just one I want to touch on. And I hope that I can bring clarity. And like I always say, if you have any questions, just let me know. In the comment section, we can discuss. If you want to book a session, let me know and we can discuss. So this is why you may say, dang, they said, we can't do this. And we got to be careful because we love throwing blankets on stuff. And a lot of times it's a case by case. You got to go case by case with these different situations. Because the initial thing may or it may not be bad in and of itself. It may just be something that's watering something that's inside you that's producing a bad result. So be mindful of that. Be very mindful of that. So I just want you to take a look at your life and see what's planted in you, what needs to be uprooted. And be careful of blankets. Be careful of making what affects you a rule for everybody else, because that's not the case. Stick to the scriptures. What does the scripture say? Not your opinion. It's fine for you to have your thoughts and opinions, but they should be in subjection to the scriptures. And stop making them rules for everybody else. Speak only what the scripture says. Stick to the scriptures. Not how you feel, not what you think. Stick to what they say and stick to what God is leading you to do, because it will line up with the Bible. Whatever He's leading you to do will line up with the Bible. It will not contradict the scriptures. So stick to that. And if you're a person who certain things don't affect you, if you ran about God and God is okay with you to do it, it doesn't contradict scripture, don't let other people sway you, because you may be listening to a believer that is weaker in a certain area or immature or lack understanding. And I'm not saying that in a rude way, but they may be a weaker believer or an immature believer, regardless of how sure they sound, how heavy they say. They can say it with their chest and still be dead wrong about it. They could still be misguided about it. They don't exegete the scripture. None of that. They could be in it for years. They could be a believer that's been in a thing for years. And sometimes we're mature in one area, but not in another area. So be mindful. So if what you're doing, let's say for instance, um, wine. If you know in your Christian freedoms that it's okay for you to drink wine, wine doesn't affect you. But there's another believer who is completely against drinking wine. Regardless of what the scripture says about you can drink wine as long as you don't get drunk. Regardless of that, they just feel like, oh, I shouldn't no Christian do this or that. If you know that it's okay, Pay no attention to them. Don't do it around them because it's going to cause them to stumble and stuff. Stick to the guidelines that are brought out in Romans 14 and in 1 Corinthians 8 and stuff like that. Stick to those guidelines on how to operate in our Christian freedoms. Stick to that. But don't be swayed so heavily by other people's opinions on the scriptures. Stick to what the scriptures say and what God tells you to do. So I hope that helps y'all. So if you have any questions, as always, let me know in the comment section below. Book a session, that's therapy session at gmail.com. That's THERAPYSESSIONS at gmail.com. If you need a safe space to talk, if you want to book a session one-on-one, spiritual guidance, wisdom, and I also want to state this too, that I'm not just a talking head. I actually am ordained in ministry as a prophet. So I have my credentials. So it's a trusted source. And I only say that to make sure that you're comfortable. So yeah, if you want to book a session, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to challenge me, I like being challenged, not in a prideful way, but just in a way to sharpen each other. If you feel different, let me know. We can have a discussion in the comment section. I don't mind. I like that. We can really get down to see what the scriptures have to say. So thank y'all for joining me, man. And again, make sure that you live a life that makes you bad ground for bad seed. Thank y'all for joining me. We out.
Your therapy session is now complete.